Hello, readers. Apparently, this is a thing now where we indie authors get our books and we read an excerpt from it and post it to YouTube. I'm not really sure why we do this, but I've been told it's something we do. Anyway, my book, Champion Standing. That's a better angle, huh? Anyway, it's a wuxia novel, which, since we're not in Asia, no one knows what the heck that is, so we're going to classify it as historical fiction. Anyway, I'm going to read something from chapter 16, and since this is my video, I get to read whatever I want, right? But whenever I read a hardcover, the first thing I do is get rid of the dust jacket. They look really pretty, but they crinkle and they make a bunch of noise and you get your greasy fingerprints all over it and get crumbled and all that stuff. And that's annoying. So, let's go. Let's do this thing. Oh, I'm a noob at this, so be nice. Anyway. It was a moonless night that followed the young warrior as he made his way from the noise and commotion taking place in the square. A cloudless sky filled with an almost blinding array of twinkling lights glittered as a jeweler's showcase filled with diamonds, rubies, sapphires, golden topaz, and emeralds shone overhead. A decision was made long before he reached the little villa that housed his quarters. He stopped long enough to take a few personal items, his dowel, a knife, and to leave a note for Shui telling him of his decision to spend the night in the forest where together they had hunted the tiger just days before. Locking the rooms behind him, the warrior disappeared into an eerie silence of the forest primeval that surrounded the warrior's village. Instinct and memory more than sight guided him as he made his way deeper and deeper into the forest. He had taken no source of artificial illumination, no way to light the trail before him, yet he never strayed from his intended way. So swift and so quiet was the passing that the forest around him was barely aware of his presence. In the darkness he wore like a shroud, the young warrior continued, driven by a purpose that even he was uncertain of, until he finally, in much less time than it had taken the three of them on the day of the hunt, arrived at the clearing where they had made their camp. Lao walked around the edges of the clearing, both surveying the encampment for signs of animals that might intrude into his solitude, and gathering firewood. Carefully, almost meticulously, he gathered the kindling and branches he gathered into an almost ceremonial pyre. He cleared the spot to sleep, but even as he was doing so, he realized it was unlikely that he would. The unlighted campfire was all but forgotten. Lao laid back and gazed at the stars floating in their celestial grandeur. Lao forced the world around him to recede into the darkness of the surrounding woods. He closed his eyes and began the relaxation exercises he learned as a child. Here and now, the young warrior was alone in the world. He was one with the world. He was the world. Nothing else existed at this time and in this place but himself. He opened his eyes to the gentle sounds of the forest. A cricket sang hauntingly at the edge of the clearing. The creatures of the night serenaded him in a majestic cacophony of sound that only creation could compose. As he listened to the otherworldly sounds of the night, his mind drifted to another place and another time. They sat there, just the two of them, in silence for the longest time before either of them spoke. But even before the bearded man sitting in the field by his side said anything, Lao recognized his surroundings. It was a strange sensation seeing him this way. It was as if he was there, a child again, living out the endless eternity of childhood, once again, and yet seeing it as an adult observer through the eyes of many years of experience. This man that was his father, and yet not. Together they sat, silently looking at the stars that shone overhead. Perhaps, Lao thought to himself, the man who was the observer, perhaps that is what brought this memory to the surface. The similarity of the two nights and the two cloudless, moonless skies. He watched the older man both as an observer and as a participant, waited for the old man to speak the words he remembered so well and yet was about to hear for the very first time. I'm dying, Lao. The warrior who was the child watched as the tears began to well up in the eyes of the child he had been. He watched as his father swallowed the trembling, crying child in his strong but tender arms. Yes, Lao, the man gently answered. I leave you to bring honor to our family. The child who would one day be a warrior stiffened slightly in the arms of his father, pulling his head far enough back from the man to look into his eyes. I will look after mother for you, he spoke with the frightened voice of a child, yet with the strength and resolution of the man he would become. His father said nothing. He nodded as if in an affirmation of what the child had said, a fear forming in his own eye. They sat there in silence, the two of them, until the first rays of dawn greeted them. After his father died, life was not easy for Lao or his mother, but they managed to overcome all obstacles that life threw their way. There would be many nights when Lao would sit gazing at the stars, working out the difficulties of life, but none so poignant as this first time. Lao looked back fondly at those difficult times, realizing again how great the influence of that gruff old man had been in his life, and seeing for maybe the first time the tenderness that was ever so carefully hidden beneath the gruff exterior of the man he called father. So, now that we're done with this excerpt, I wanted to show you guys something that not many people know. It's kind of hard to see in this, but if you look closely, a lot of the words in each chapter are bolded. That's because all 23 chapters in Champion Standing have hidden messages. Just write down the bolded letters and you can figure them out. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my excerpt from Champion Standing, and I hope it will either A, entice you to buy the book, yay, or B, check out my website. It's article94.wordpress.com. You can also follow me at Twitter, and it's @article_94. Thanks for watching.